What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today, we're going to put the spotlight on Batman Arkham Knight. I really want to do an experiment where I analyze a lot of the perception surrounding the game at the time it came out, because I understand that this is a game that for fans, we hold very high esteem about. But since Gotham Knights has come out, the game cannot stop living in the shadow of the Arkham games. In fact, to me, it's gotten somewhat ridiculous, and I thought, you know what, maybe a history lesson would allow for a lot of us who were maybe in our bubbles at the time to kind of see that, Arkham is a good game. The Arkham games are good games, but they do have their weaknesses. There is no perfect game. And if many people want to hold Gotham Knights to these standards, I thought it would be nice for us to see how Arkham really got held, its feet got held to the fire even when it came out. A lot of people that were looking at the game were not necessarily, super, googly eyed about the game like I was. So I want to see if you have a different reaction. So there's a video that Godzilla Mendoza did years ago, and I thought we'd watch the first few minutes of it. We'll analyze a few things, just basically about the, kind of like his thesis, basically stating like, what his video was going to be about, because it's a 25-minute long video. I don't want to do a full analysis on that in one video, so maybe we'll do it bit by bit. So let's go ahead and start up the video, and we'll see what comes of it.
When Arkham Asylum came out, having Joker be the main villain was a complete no-brainer, and having him voiced by Mark Hamill only further cemented that decision as a solid, of course, why wouldn't you? And it made sense that he'd be a major player in the sequel, Arkham City, because why the hell would Joker just sit one game out if he was in the vicinity of everything going on? Of course, Arkham City's plot did have some problems. Like, for example, that big reveal at the end, where the main villain behind everything wasn't Hugo Strange, but instead was a guy you had already successfully beaten up like 4 hours ago.
He ain't lying, folks.
Kinda took the impact out of it.
Yep, I mean, I can see that. At the time I played the game, I was just enjoying myself. I didn't analyze, okay, what's about the story and what are the elements, but I thought it was really interesting.
And then to tie it all off, Joker slides in at the end and reveals he's been manipulating Batman the whole game.
Hold on, my bell just rang. All right, let's continue. I wanted to pick up a delivery.
Top after everyone else has either exploded or died of a horrible disease. Then it kinda doesn't go so well for him. It was a bold decision to kill off Batman's main villain, and it was probably the best ending for all four of these games.
Agreed.
I'd also like to note that with the sudden influx of character deaths, it was apparent that the Arkham games were now in their own universe, and that thing that I liked about Arkham Asylum is now null and void. Then
that's
Arkham
all preference.
Origins comes along and
that's all his preference. No doubt about that, but it is what it is.
Sells us with the fact that it's Batman versus a whole mess of various DC assassins and bad guys, only to have that fizzle out about halfway through when the main villain pulls his mask off and says, "Hey everyone, you're not allowed to have a Batman story without me, apparently."
Joker really did take the show. I mean, he's the main villain, but, I guess let's see what he's talking about here.
So Joker is the villain of the first game, is basically the villain of the second game, then shows up and steals the spotlight as the villain in the third game, and then in the fourth game, he's the main villain. Even after he died? I think this just demonstrates the weak writing that a lot of Batman stories suffer from. They tend to always suddenly forget that he has such a huge rogues gallery. If someone once had the gall to say, Batman has all the best villains, why can't we get any of that in these games? It's like everyone else is just a B-lister that's only worthy of being Batman's grocery list of extra bullshit in between chasing the Joker. Arkham City even had that weird plot with Hush using stolen human faces to look like Bruce Wayne. We can't make a whole story out of that? Just a minor scuffle in an office where no one gets killed? Okay then. Paul Dini left the series and none of the new writers cared enough to try something new and different. It's a brand new universe with no baggage from the comics or continuity to dance around. They had a perfect clean slate and a ton of possibilities for new avenues to explore in a Gotham without the Joker. Then they loosely adapted a comic story and shoved Joker into it, even when it made no sense and all it did was serve a contrived function in the plot.
I mean, already he's poking holes into how the story writing for this particular game or these games did not necessarily seem to be this huge grail that everybody is wanting to make it out to be. I can understand, and like I said, we're only going to do the first few minutes of this video because it's going to run so long if we try to like sit here and analyze everything. And he has other critiques, and there are other YouTubers that had a lot of other critiques at that time. And I think it's worth noting that we go back and look through these things to see if, the standard that we've held the Arkham games to are probably standards that just came from a fan base who was really happy to get something revolutionary as, say, Batman Arkham Asylum, because that is where the revolution kind of, started with the whole superhero games. Not to take away anything from Rocksteady's work, I think they did a very good job in putting these games together, but you could also tell the effect of losing Paul Dini by the time Arkham Knight came out, which was basically it would have been like the epitome of all the games that they'd been making. But Arkham Knight was more of a mechanics exhibition. Like, we've made these mechanics over 10 years or more, and so we're going to go ahead and showcase what we got. So I think that's where Arkham Knight kind of really did win. I go back and I look at the way Gotham Knights is, taken into account. If you want to compare Gotham Knights to a game like, say, Arkham Asylum, I think Gotham Knights straight up wins. It does the job as Warner Brothers Montreal's very first iteration. Story probably, in my opinion, could use a lot of work, but in terms of the way they make the game in an RPG sense, progression, and so on and so forth, the game is fine. I think people are looking for a game that was going to continue Arkham. And if you want a game that will continue Arkham and all the quality that Arkham had to bring, then you would expect it from Rocksteady. You will never, I don't know where this is coming from, expect it from a studio with, in my opinion, minimal experience because of the newness of a lot of the team members, and then having been, had their games canceled and so on and so forth. I don't think you would have expected something of that nature, even though I still think the quality of Gotham Knights is really good for what it is that they were able to bring. And when you compare it in a better context, like, say, other RPGs or, anything that you would do in a superhero iteration that's not necessarily your action adventure. Say, take, for instance, Midnight Suns doing the, turn-based shooter, Blade shoots a little bit in that game, I think. The turn-based game and, taking maybe Guardians of the Galaxy where, Star-Lord's shooting every time or whatever it is, which is more of a team-based game. You really have to look at Gotham Knights from that. But I think in the DC community, DC fans overall, for the most part, are just impatient. I mean, they just want everything a specific way. They're grounded in one way of doing things, and everything that's different is already a problem. Look at Suicide Squad going through that. And so when I look at the way DC fans go ahead and compare everything to the Arkham games, you'd think these games were perfect, but in reality, they were just games that provided something new. And so everybody looked at it with googly eyes, but not everybody, because even at that time, critics and, people who were taking into account where the shortcomings were not necessarily buying the Kool-Aid overall. I'm a huge fan, so I was down with the, man, this is insane, man. I thought this was insane, but now that I'm looking at other video games, it's starting to dawn on me that this might be where the root of where a lot of this rejection is coming from, because I still see in comment sections people calling Gotham Knights a live service game. Like, yo, what the heck? Or people saying, oh, this is a loot fest, loot grind. Which RPG game does not require you to go acquire things? Like, I just can't see it. Even the best RPG games that were voted, Game of the Year or even nominated for those awards, they have basically similar elements, yet it seems like people just cannot get out of the Arkham side of things because they were googly-eyed overall. And the truth is, many people are saying, oh, Arkham did this better. They don't play Arkham anymore. Like, you can only play it one game so long, in a sense. And so that's basically where I think Gotham Knights is able to provide an end game that can run you hundreds and hundreds of hours and you haven't even platinumed the game. But all in all, this was a story depiction anyways. We'll look into gameplay mechanics and we'll look into combat and a few things because, Godzilla Mendoza does a really good job. So shout out to you for actually putting together these critiques back then when, for the most part, a lot of Arkham fans were just happy to get an Arkham or a set of Arkham games. And now that they're not getting more Arkham games, you can see how much of an issue that they've, that we in the Arkham community anyways have made it out to be, when in reality, those Arkham games, it was right for, Rocksteady to stop them and possibly explore something else. Now, if it was the Suicide Squad that they decided to explore, I'm not certain, but I think Warner Brothers put them on this route. And it's not necessarily the best look from a fan perspective, but we'll talk about that later on too in a different video. So thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Peace out.